pray. The heads covered fully. We face the east towards Jerusalem, where our temple was and where our temple in Hamashiach shall return. Brother West, can you open us up in prayer, please?
Abba, Father, YAH, Elohim of Abraham, Yishak, Yaakov. Thank you, Father YAH, for allowing us to convene in your name once again, Father YAH, and to give this Bible study, Father YAH. And pray, Father YAH, that the words that go out tonight are aligned with your word, Father YAH, is aligned with your truth, Father YAH. We pray that your spirit be upon us, Father YAH, so that we can spread your word, Father YAH, in sincerity and truth. And we ask you, Father YAH, please forgive us our sins, our transgressions, and our iniquity, Father YAH. We thank you for your mercy, Father YAH, for we know that your mercy is boundless, Father YAH, and we are undeserving, Father YAH, but we are trying our best, Father YAH. We're striving, and sometimes we're just doing enough to get by, Father YAH, but we ask you, Father YAH, please help us be zealous for your word, Father YAH, and help us tether ourselves to your word, Father YAH. Help us not to get spiritually lazy and to go backwards, Father YAH, but help us to continually grow in your word and to continually be molded by your word, Father YAH. Help us to strengthen ourselves in your word, Father YAH, and help us to draw closer to you, Father YAH. Help us not to get caught up in distractions and worldly nonsense, Father YAH, and vanity, Father YAH. Help us to engage in the things that profit, Father YAH, that profit for your kingdom, Father YAH. Help us to grow and bear fruit in your name, Father YAH, and to store up those kingdomly treasures, Father YAH. In Yeshua HaMashiach's name we pray. Thank you, Father YAH.
Amen. Right. Shalom, shalom. Praise Yah. My name is Yadan Yasharal. I'm from our brother Wesley Yasharal. Shalom, shalom. And we are Savior Word of Yah, Tabernacles of the Congregation of Yisrael. And our Bible study today is entitled Nationality versus Citizenship, or Citizenship versus Nationality. Before we get started and get into the class, we have our new line that's on Kodesh Fresh. It's called SMAG, Slavery Made America Great. And this past weekend, we did an event at the store. And in the parking lot, at the same time at Stone Mountain Mall, they had the Democratic senators that are running for senator in there, and they did their big rally. And of course, we took ample advantage of the fact that we had all the politicians there. And this is pretty big because Georgia is literally supposed to decide whether or not the Democrats get the House and the Senate. If they don't get it, then it'll be split once again. And with the so-called Democratic president, then it's just going to be that blame game again. Oh, well, the Republicans didn't pass this. So, they're playing the little political games, which we don't care. But it was a primary market for us. So we went out and we had our clothing, and we had the Slavery Made America Great along with, Kodesh Fresh and our regular stuff. And, we sell this stuff every day of the week. But because the politicians were there, they tried to basically kick us out, try to move us. And, of course, it was very awkward because the management of the Democratic Party was trying to kick us out of our own parking lot and saying that they rented the parking lot, so forth and so on. And we just weren't having it because we leaseholders. So I don't know what you're talking about. Our lease gives us access to that. So we had that battle on. And then our elder, he also, Elder Ben Mullet, he debuted the Bonehead, which is another character he has, which is a full-grown dog with a bone on the back of his head, pushing the, Slavery Made America Great mantra, and caused a little bit of controversy out there because it's a little bit stated a little bit different than the shirts that we have, and it was intentional, almost like the character from the Boondocks. What's the guy name from the Boondocks? The old man, the grandfather, whatever. But anyways, it's to purposely parody how ignorant we look out here, trying to be their nationality. We're not their nationality. We're barely citizens. So we have to understand the difference between our nationality and our citizenship. So we say, oh, what are you? I'm American. I'm not black. Just call me American. No, that's your citizenship. If you have citizenship, and to go even deeper in that, there is a big C and a little c for citizenship. So that's on a whole different side. A business versus an actual person. That's a whole different side. But either way, we have to understand that they're trying to erase our nationality so that we could be world citizens, so they can be all in that one world order. But we have to understand who we are. The fact that we are the only people on the earth that does not have a stated and worldwide known nationality is the reason why we cannot get reparations. This is why we even did Slavery Made America Great, because we understood they're not going to cut no check for us. You see, the biggest money they cut was for everybody. They want to include everybody. They done gave every other nation, group of people, reparations. Even an Indian guy came here to visit his son that was going to school here in Emory, I believe. And the police beat him up, thought he was black because he was kind of a dark Indian. They had to pay India money because he's an Indian citizen. So they had to pay him. He's from India, of a nationality. So they have a flag behind them. We don't have a flag behind us. We're only here to build the country, to go to war, and to go and build the jails, both internally and externally. That's what we have. So we got to stop playing that citizenship game. But at the same time, you can use it to your advantage, but don't be institutionalized by that. So we're going to first take a look and just get an idea of this whole citizenship idea. So let's first open up let's open up. I didn't get to print the class out. The printer was acting up, so I had to take a picture of the class. Bear with me 1 second, brothers and sisters. All right, let's open up in Acts chapter 21. Acts chapter 21, and we're going to start this at verse 27. Acts chapter 21. We want to start that at verse 27.
All right. Acts chapter 21 and verse 27. And when the 7 days were almost ended, the Jews, Yahudim, which were of Asia, when they saw him in the temple, stirred up all the people and laid hands on him, crying out, Men of Israel, help! This is the man that teaches all men everywhere against the people and the law in this place, and further brought Greeks also into the temple and has polluted this holy place.
Okay, so they're accusing Saul of bringing Greeks, and the Greek they probably talk about is Timothy, because Timothy's father was a Greek. So they're accusing him of he's teaching against what the Pharisees teach, and he's bringing Gentiles up into the temple. So the law says that Gentiles aren't allowed in the temple. They're outside. Go ahead.
For they had seen before him in the city Trophimus, an Ephesian, whom they supposed that Saul had brought into the temple. And all the city was moved, and the people ran together, and they took Saul and drew him out of the temple, and forthwith the doors were shut.
So again, this unrighteous judgment, they assumed he was doing this act. So they grabbed him and snatched him up and brought him out.
And as they went about to kill him, tidings came unto the chief captain of the band that all Jerusalem was in an uproar, who immediately took soldiers and centurions and ran down unto them. And when they saw the chief captain and the soldiers, they left beating of Saul. Then the chief captain came near and took him and commanded him to be bound with 2 chains and demanded who he was and what he had done.
All right, so every time I see that, 2 chains is actually in the Bible. Okay, go ahead.
And some cried one thing, some another, among the multitude. And when he could not know the certainty for the tumult, he commanded him to be carried into the castle. And when he came upon the stairs, so it was that he was borne of the soldiers for the violence of the people.
So it wasn't the soldiers, the Romans. We talk about the Romans, like the Romans are the brutes, but it was his own people that beat the crap out of him. The Romans like, man, we didn't even get a chance to beat him. Y'all already done beat him to death. They had to carry him. That's how bad this brother was beat. And this brother is being beat for what? For spreading the good news, for speaking this word. Now, what he did what he did and was bringing people to the temple to get flogged and beat. So it's only befitting that you caused a lot of suffering, you are going to have to suffer yourself. So we have to remember that when we get our woe is me moments, like, oh, I'm trying to walk in this word and be a citizen of the kingdom and reassume my nationality, but life is so hard. Well, guess what? What about all that wickedness we did before? It's going to catch up. So I would rather suffer for righteousness' sake and take it with a cheer and be content in whatever state I'm in, rather than to get beat in the act of doing what I'm doing wrong. Because then there's no gift for that. There's no benefit because you're just getting what you deserve.
Verse 36.
Hold on. We had a few comments here. Uncle Ruckus. I knew I can count on my brother Yafi Yehuda. Uncle Ruckus. That's the name of the character. He's just very ignorant and he's like the stereotype. So that's what the character of the dog was like an Uncle Ruckus type character. It wasn't for us to say be like this. It was so you could look at it and see clearly this is what you look like. You look like a clown. Almost like when they did that movie. Here's another one if somebody can find it. The one with Damon Wayans and Tommy Davidson, and they wore the black face. Buffooned. What is it called? Buffoonery? I think it's called buffoonery or something like that. But anyways, another movie where, they're showing you how foolish we look. And we also got another message. Good to see you, sis Katya. She said Kamala Harris was very clear that she would not grant reparations to African Americans when she ran for president. And soon after stepped down when most didn't choose her. Her mother is a Brahmin elite of India, and her father an elite Jamaican. What does she care? Not at all. She don't care. The way you throwing black folks in prison like that, you definitely don't care.
All right.
All right. Thompson.
Verse 36 in Acts chapter 21.
Mm-hmm.
For the multitude of the people followed after, crying, Away with him. And as Saul was to be led into the castle, he said unto the chief captain, May I speak unto you? Who said, Can you speak Greek? Are you not that Egyptian which before these days made an uproar and led out into the wilderness 4,000 men that were murderers?
All right. So are you not that Egyptian? So Egyptian, that's a nationality. So they thinking his nationality is Egyptian. They like, you speak Greek? Whoa. Because they looking and say you a black man. And you know, to the Greeks or you know, the whole stereotype that they would say all black people look the same.
Right,
so they
right,
thinking he an Egyptian. He not dressed like an Egyptian.
Right.
Saul he was a Pharisee. He definitely was not dressed like an Egyptian. But see, when the Greeks came to the area, Egypt was a prominent area. So when they saw black people, they associated, well, you must be Egyptian. But he said, can you speak Greek? So the fact that you speak Greek don't make you Greek.
But Saul said, I am a man which am a Yahudim of Tarsus, a city in Cilicia, a citizen of no mean city, and I beseech you, suffer me to speak unto the people.
So what did Saul say? Did he say, hey, I'm a Christian?
No.
You know, or hey, I'm this? No. He's saying, I am a Yahudim of Tarsus, a city in Cilicia, a citizen of no mean city. Go ahead.
And when he had given him license, Saul stood on the stairs and beckoned with the hand unto the people. And when there was made a great silence, he spake unto them in the Hebrew tongue, saying,
All right, so he spoke to them in the Hebrew tongue. So here goes a nationality. Nationality, I'm from a nation which has a language, a uniform language for the nation. Now, when you have people move in and get citizenship into a area, now there can be different dialects. For example, I'm from Miami. That's where I grew up. I'm originally from Jamaica, but I grew up in Miami. And in Miami, yeah, it's America. Yeah, but no, they speak Spanish. Everybody speaks Spanish. You can't even get a job down there if you don't speak Spanish. So, yeah, you can have different people come in and take citizenship or a legal citizenship, and that can change the languages. But that's not your nation. That's not a nationality. All right, so we're going to go through 22 and we'll stop at verse 3.
All right, so, and when there was made a great silence, he spake unto them in the Hebrew tongue, saying, verse 1 in chapter 22 of Acts, Men, brethren, and fathers, hear you my defense, which I make now unto you. And when they heard that he spake in the Hebrew tongue to them, they kept the more silence. And he said, I am verily a man which am a Yahudim, born in Tarsus, a city in Cilicia, yet brought up in this city at the feet of Gamaliel, and taught according to the perfect manner of the law of the fathers, and was zealous toward Elohim, as you all are this day.
And this is why a lot of people don't understand Paul. They don't understand Saul because he was a Pharisee. He was a doctor of the law. He understood the law. Now, what was the problem with the Pharisees?
They spoke the word, but they didn't do the word.
They knew it very well, and they spoke it very well, but they didn't do the word. So it wasn't that they didn't know. This is why. Okay, here's another one. What did Yahushua tell the people regarding the Pharisees, regarding what the Pharisees would tell them? What did he say?
Listen and do what they say, but don't
do as they do.
Right.
Don't do as they do. Pretty sharp, Brother West. You impress me every week. I throw out these little questions and it's like I throw it out to you as if I'm saying it to myself, and you constantly know these questions. I never give you any credit for that. So I mean, you definitely in your studies. Praise Yah. So he said, don't listen to them, what they bid you do, because they telling you to do what's according to the law. Now, they traditions and all that stuff. All right, as long as it don't go against the law of YAH. So even they traditions, he say, do, because they're over you. They have authority. So why would you cause a problem for yourself and not dwell in peace? But don't do as they, don't follow them. Don't lay heavy burdens on people and don't help because you're some kind of, you're above your brethren. Don't say things, oh, you don't steal, don't kill, don't do this, and then turn around and do the same thing. So that's the problem. People want to call us Pharisees because we tell people what the law says. But I say, I get really offended by that. I say, are you calling me a Pharisee because I'm not doing the things that I'm telling you to do? Or are you calling me a Pharisee simply because I'm reading the law to you? 9 times out of 10 is because you're reading the law. They automatically call you, this is the Christian doctrine. Oh, they're Pharisees. They're Pharisees. They trying to keep the law. That wasn't the problem with the Pharisees. That's never a problem trying to keep the law. Yahweh said they weren't keeping the law. That was the problem. And he's brought up at the feet of Gamaliel. If you want to know who Gamaliel is, Gamaliel was at the time of Christ. When all the Pharisees were coming together and they're like, well, what are we going to do? This guy said he's the son of God and he's going to do this. They said, Gamaliel stood up in front of all of them and said, look here, G. How many people, where the last dude that said he was Christ? Where he at? Oh, he gone. Yeah, he died. Just like every other dude who came around. Where the last dude said he was Christ here? Hebrew congregation. He said he was the Holy Spirit. Where he at? Gone. Never didn't pass 2020. Didn't get it. Where the other guy that they carried on a throne like this and wrapped him around here, right here out of Atlanta, like he was the king coming in like he Christ. They lifted him up. What happened to him? Gone. What happened to the other guy who started a congregation right here? It brought us over to out of Chicago, brought us over there to the land. What happened to him? Gone. What happened to the dude from my hometown who literally said he's the Most High, son of the Most High? What happened to him? Gone. So Gamaliel was wise. He said, listen, if he of the Most High, you ain't going to be able to stop him. But if he like every other fool coming out here trying to say he Christ, just eat your popcorn, sit back and watch. So Gamaliel was wise, one of the wise of the Pharisees. And this is who raised up Saul. So he was trained in the letter of the law to have a good understanding as a nationality, but then was abroad and was able to get citizenship and take advantage of those things. So again, we're not saying that you should just abandon your citizenship and just, if that's what the Spirit moves you, cool. But if there's an advantage to that some kind of way, we had a lot of people go sovereign. They went sovereign. One of the first assemblies that I helped start here in Atlanta, some of the elders of that place went sovereign. Because they thought, this is the way to go. We ain't got to pay taxes. We got to do this. But they didn't set it up properly. They don't have businesses. They didn't have international driver's license. They don't have bank accounts. They don't have property purchased in the name of business. So they stuck. Now, they can't do anything and they not in their land. You in somebody else's land and can't do anything in the land. You might as well be an illegal alien. Then you black on top of that. So use your wisdom. But citizenship is to your advantage, but it doesn't replace your nationality. It's cool to have a citizenship, but it's more important to know your nationality. Tomshi?
Acts chapter 22 and verse 4. And I persecuted this way unto the death, binding and delivering into prisons both men and women, as also the high priest does bear me witness, and all the estate of the elders, from whom I received letters unto the brethren, and went to Damascus to bring them which were there bound unto Jerusalem for to be punished. And it came to pass that as I made my journey and was come near unto Damascus about noon, Suddenly there shone from heaven a great light round about me. And I fell unto the ground and heard a voice saying unto me, Saul, Saul, why persecute you me? And I answered, Who are you, master? And he said unto me, I am Yeshua of Nazareth, whom you persecute. And they that were with me saw indeed the light, and were afraid, but they heard not the voice of him that spake to me.
All right, so Saul, if you look in verse 7, this is red writing. In many of red letter Bibles, you'll have red writing when Christ is speaking. And what is Christ calling him? Christ said, hey, Paul. What is he saying? What does it say?
So
He's calling him by his Hebrew name. He's speaking to him in the Hebrew tongue. Why persecute you me? And what people like to also do is they like to discredit Paul because Paul was not walking with Yahushua. But after Yahushua's birth, death, and resurrection, he is now coming as the king, as the right hand of the Father, down to talk to Saul, who was trained by the strictest sect of the Pharisees. So were people rejecting Paul and his writings? You're rejecting Torah. You don't understand Torah. You got to go back into Torah and understand what is he saying so that you can understand he surely wouldn't be talking from a perspective of going against Torah, being that he was brought up in Torah. All he is doing is magnifying it through the body of the Mashiach. So let's stop right there. Let's go to Exodus chapter 19. Let's see the difference. This is where we became a nation. And when we get into the land, we now become, we now become citizens and a nation. Citizens of a nation. All right, so if we want to look up the Greek word for citizen, it is G4177. G4177. And that's polites. Polites.
which Exodus chapter?
Exodus 19.
Okay.
All right. Polites, G4177. And that is simply a townsman. It's just somebody who lives in town. You live in that town. So he's saying he's a citizen of that town. He's somebody that lives in that town. It's just citizenship. Now you can take it and make it official where you write this and you get that's man making it all that. Citizen is just somebody that lives in that town. According to the Greek. Exodus, Shemot, chapter 19. Let's read 1 through 8.
In the 3rd month, when the children of Yasharal were gone forth out of the land of Mitzrayim, Egypt, the same day came they unto the wilderness of Sinai. For they departed from Rephidim, and were come to the desert of Sinai, and had pitched in the wilderness, and there Yasharal camped before the mount. And Moshe went up unto Elohim, and Yahweh called unto him out of the mountain, saying, Thus shall you say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Yasharal, You have seen what I did unto the Mizrites, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. Now therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then you shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine.
All right, so if you keep my covenant, and you shall be and obey his voice, we will be a treasure, a segulah, unto Yah above all the people of the earth. This is us becoming citizens and becoming a nation. We were already a family of people. We are now becoming a nation because we are getting ready to receive an inheritance. Go ahead.
And you shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words which you shall speak unto the children of Yasharal.
All right. So when we become a kingdom of priests, we will be a holy nation, not a holy citizenship. Because the whole citizenship is where they come up with the whole idea of Jew. I'm a Jew. You're a Jew, you live in Judea. They call it Jewry. But that didn't mean you was an Israelite. That's not your nationality. So you have people playing these games with citizenship and nationality and say that, oh yeah, I'm an Israeli. An Israeli is just one that's from Israel, a townsman, a citizen of Israel. But you never hear them say I'm an Israelite. You never hear them say I'm Hebrew.
Verse 7. And Moshe came and called for the elders of the people, and laid before their faces all these words which Yahweh commanded them. And all the people answered together and said, all that Yahweh has spoken, we will do. And Moshe returned the words of the people unto Yahweh.
All right, so there's the second witness. It's sealed. We agreed to be his kingdom of priests and his holy nation, and we now have a nationality. That's who we are. We are the children of Israel, the kingdom of priests, a holy nation that is to follow and obey Yah's words and to keep his covenant. Let's go to Exodus, Shemot chapter 6. Let's go back a few chapters. Exodus chapter 6. We just want to read 1 through 13 here.
Then Yahweh said unto Moshe, now shall you see what will I do to Pharaoh, for with a strong hand shall he let them go, and with a strong hand shall he drive them out of his land. And Elohim spake unto Moshe and said unto him, I am Yahweh. And I appeared unto Abraham, unto Yishak, and unto Jacob by the name of El Shaddai, but by the name Yahweh was I not known to them. And I have also established my covenant with them, to give them the land of Canaan, the land of their pilgrimage, wherein they were strangers. And I have also heard the groaning of the children of Yasharal, whom the Mizrites keep in bondage, and I have remembered my covenant. Wherefore say unto the children of Yasharal, I am Yahweh, and I will bring you out from under the burdens of the Mizrites, and I will rid you out of their bondage, and I will redeem you with a stretched out arm, and with great judgments. And I will take you to me for a people, and I will be to you an Elohim, and you shall know that I am Yahweh your Elohim, which brings you out from under the burdens of the Mizrites.
All right, so it said, I will take you to me for a people. So let's look at that word for people. The word for people here is Ami. Ami. Which is, what's the Strongs for that one?
5971.
Okay, Exodus 6. And Salakia, the printout from the printer was all messed up, so we can't even read what's on here, and we can't see the computer. So bear with us. We usually have all this stuff out. What verse was that?
Exodus 6 and 7.
All right. So it said, I will take you for me for a people. So H5971 is Ame, a people, specifically a tribe, as those of Yasharal, hence troops of attendants, figuratively flock, folk, men, nation, people. So now you're looking at a nation, a holy group of people that he's taking that are all related. They're all bloodline. They are of one nationality. And we're going to actually get into the nationality and take a look at that and understand what these nationalities are. All right, Thompson.
Exodus chapter 6 and verse 8. And I will bring you into the land concerning the which I did swear to give it to Abraham, to Yishak, and to Jacob. And I will give it to you for a heritage. I am Yahweh. And Moshe spake unto...
All right, so if you look at that word for heritage, what's the Strongs for heritage on that one?
4181.
All right, so H4181. It's Morashah. 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 I will give it to you for a possession. So the land is our inheritance. So the land is the inheritance that belongs to the Ame, the family, the nationality. All of that creates the nation. Now, you can have strangers come in and dwell there. That would make them a citizen. They just a townsman, somebody that lives there. But they would not be our nation. It didn't work that way unless they were absorbed into our nation after generations and generations of being there.
Verse 9. And Moshe spake so unto the children of Yasharal, but they hearkened not unto Moshe for anguish of spirit and for cruel bondage. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Go in, speak unto Pharaoh, king of Misraim, that he let the children of Yasharal go out of his land. And Moshe spake before Yahweh, saying, Behold, the children of Yasharal have not hearkened unto me. How then shall Pharaoh hear me, who am of uncircumcised lips?
All right. How then shall Pharaoh hear me, who am of uncircumcised lips? So what does he mean by that, of uncircumcised lips? What do you think he meant by that? Where did he grow up?
He grew up in... Moshe is referring to himself, right?
Mm-hmm.
He grew up in Pharaoh's house, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. All right, so that is the word for that is arel, for uncircumcised, properly exposed. That's projecting loose as prepus, used only as technically that is still having an uncurtailed uncircumcision. So his lips haven't been trained. He hasn't cut the slurring and the different types of words because he don't speak Hebrew that well. How are you gonna go in there talking about? It's like I'm gonna go into the people that have all the Jamaicans. Perfect example. I pretty much almost altogether lost my Jamaican accent, other than when I speak to Jamaicans. And how am I gonna go before somebody that has the Jamaicans sounding like somebody from Miami or from America, trying to say, "Oh, this is my people, let them go"? They're like, "Bro, you don't even sound like you Caribbean." Right. So Moshe's like, how he gonna listen to me when I grew up in his house, speaking, well, not particularly his house, but grew up in that area, and then now speaking this language that they don't understand, because this is not the house he grew up in. Keep in mind, this is way later. Mm-hmm. But he don't even speak the language like that.
All right. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe and said unto Aaron, and gave them a charge unto the children of Yasharal and unto Pharaoh, king of Misraim, to bring the children of Yasharal out of the land of Misraim.
All right, so that's what we think often, like, who am I? You know, we out here trying to do these big things. We trying to set up, a place in the land for people that are trying to get up out of here. We trying to do all these things. People like, who are you? Who are you? But if the Father put that in our heart to say that you are going to be a nation is going to be born, you got to remove that doubt. And that's why you got to understand the difference between nation. It's time for us to come together as a nation, not to come together as citizens. Let's get together with all the citizens and let's Black Lives Matter, let's march. It don't say that. That's their agenda. Let's make them all citizens so that they could be nation versus nation. Nation of believers, Yasharal, and all those that cleave on to them, and the nation of the adversary, the devil, the world. So they want to convince you that this citizenship is what's really important. No, you better hold on to your nationality. All right, let's move on. Let's go to Genesis chapter 10, and we're going to take a look at these nations. All the nations, not territories, but nations, bloodlines of people are listed here in Genesis chapter 10. It's called the Table of the Nations. is what they like to title it, but it's basically Bereshit chapter 10. And it's going to go over all these bloodlines. And the first time I read the Bible through cover to cover, these are one of the things, some of the chapters, you just be like, this makes no sense. Like, I'm not retaining this stuff. It's just, I'm just reading just to say I read it. But later, as, I was taught when I actually had teachers, now I could understand what the importance of this when I started to see who these people are. And now you start hearing terms like Ashkenazi and Sephardic, Assidic, and all these different terms. Some are just terms as far as a description versus bloodlines, like Ashkenaz, bloodline, Sephardim, bloodline, Sephardic, bloodline. And they start telling you things like the curse of Ham. Well, Ham was the bloodline, but he had sons. Didn't curse the whole bloodline. He cursed a specific son. Cursed be Canaan.
Genesis chapter 10 and verse 1. Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth.
All right. So this is after the flood. The whole entire earth was restarted by 8 people. Noah, 3 sons, and their wives. 8 people. It confirms in here is only 8 people. Wasn't no extra person that snuck on the boat. Cain, he hung on the side. No, everybody died. 8 people started off the whole earth. And Noah didn't continue having, other kids of bloodline. No. Shem, the oldest, Ham, and Japheth. All of them are the 3 bloodlines in the earth. You're either Shemite, Hamite, or Japhethite. It's one of those.
And unto them were sons born after the flood. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Madai, and Yavan, and Tubal, and Meshech, and Tiras.
All right, so Japheth, if you go into a little bit of history, you go into the book of Yashar, it talks about, or Jubilees, one of those books, the Sefer writings, it talks about how Shem, Ham, and Japheth, their kids and everything were fighting, almost like how Abraham and Lot was fighting. They were being blessed so much that servants is fighting. So they divided up the land. Ham took, Africa, northern Africa, all the way to the west and downward into South Africa. And Shem took from the Nile River on all the way over into, to the Middle East area, all the way in there. And then Japheth took Europe, Eurasia, and that area. And this was the covenant that the brothers made amongst each other to keep peace. So somebody violated that. Canaan violated that. And Canaan moved into the land of Shem. And that's why the Most High, Yahweh, was so angry with them. Because you move landmarks. He said, Yah said he hates people moving landmarks. Because he's trying to keep peace in the earth. And Canaan decided, well, I'm going to move here and I'm just going to take over this land and do whatever. And this is why Yahweh was like, look, we're going to dispossess everybody in this land. We killing everything. We even killing even your animals is wicked.
And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Riphath, and Togarmah. And the sons of Yavan, Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, and Dodanim.
All right, so if you know who some of these people are, go ahead and comment. We're going to throw a few out that we're able to kind of verify what they're most likely. But we got to keep in mind, when you're dealing with people, you can't look at, for example, Atlanta is a perfect example. Oh, you stay downtown Atlanta? You stay in midtown Atlanta? Well, 10, 15 years ago, you stayed down there. You was black. Now, $700,000 homes. A lot of people, Atlantans don't even live there. These are out of town people. So you can't look at a region and say, because that's what the people look like now, that's who's there. So you look at Egypt right now, you see a bunch of light skinned, Syrian looking people that are kind of mixed. And you think, oh, that's what the Egyptians. No, That's not what these people look. You got to look at the walls and see what the people look like that were in that land. So some of this has moved. So some of the popular ones here, Javan, that's Greece. All right, Gomer, and Ashkenaz, that's Ashkenaz is the German, that whole little Germanic tribal area. Tarshish is Spain, the ships of Tarshish, that's Spain. Verse 5, or did you finish verse 4?
Yeah. Genesis chapter 10 and verse 5. By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue, after their families and their nations.
All right. So it said, these were the isles of the Gentiles. And see, a doctrine that was being taught often was that the Gentiles were just Japheth. Those was Gentiles, because it said, oh, these are the isles of the Gentiles. Well, there's a problem with that. Go look up for that word Gentiles. Bereshit chapter 10. Should be Goyim.
10.
These are the isles, verse 5. Because at one point they changed that and they said these are the isles of the nations. And when I was taught, oh, you see, don't use that Bible because they changed it to nations. It say Gentiles because they trying to hide who the Gentiles are. So I was kind of taught that doctrine. That's an old school doctrine, but that's incorrect, because when you look at that word for Gentiles, it's just goy, foreign nation. Everyone is a Gentile except for Yasharal, because it's us and everybody else, nation against nation. All the other nations, which are going to become a nation, according to Matthew 24, and the nation of believers of Yasharal. So it's just basically saying these are the isles of the nations. That's all that's saying. And I'm going to prove that because as we go further down, we're going to see that. Tomshu?
Verse 6. And the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizraim, and Put, and Canaan.
All right, so the sons of Ham. Cush, Ethiopia. Mizraim would be Egypt. Puts would I believe is like Libya, and Canaan is Israel. That piece of Israel that they inhabited.
And the sons of Cush, Seba, and Havilah, and Sapta, and Raamah, and Sapteca. And the sons of Ramah, Sheba, and Dedan.
All right, and Ham means warm. Ham means warm. So it's like the warm, the dark, the warmness of the land. So it's even like when you try to use Kemetic, when they say Cam, they literally saying Ham. It's the same word. So they're calling themselves by Hebrew names. Which is very funny. A lot of people are using Hebrew name. Even Hamas. You know Hamas? That so-called organization over there in the Middle East that's blowing up people and killing people from Palestine, whatever. Hamas literally means violence in Hebrew. So these people are using Hebrew terms and not even knowing it. And because we don't know who we are, they're throwing out all kind of things that show that we have relevance that we just never picked up on.
All right.
And Cush, perfect example. Cush is Ethiopia area, but in the area they call Ethiopia, which was a large area, by the way, because this is kind of where life cradled around that area. Babylon, Ethiopia, that typical area. Cush had Semites, which are Shem, that lived there, and Hamites. You had some people that was their land, because it kind of borders some of that area. And then you had the people that was their nation, that were actually Hamites. So again, you can't just look at where people were and say, oh, they're all this. That's like looking at America and say, we're all white. Right. Or we're all so-called Native American. No. That's why that 12 tribe chart don't make no sense. Because you got according to Isaiah chapter 11, I believe it's 11 and 13, it says Judah was spread, or 11 and 12, 11, 13, around there. Judah was spread, dispersed to the four corners of the earth. So if we at the four corners of the earth, how are you just going to have an American flag? So we all four corners? Does America sits up like this with four corners? Doctrine. So this is 2020, is about to be 2021. It's time that we start getting past these elders that were just giving the best that they could give, giving the best they had, and the little that they gave us was enough for us to shoot forward. But we got to get out the cult understanding and get into the books, get into the scholarship of this and start to learn. That's why I praise y'all for brothers like, Brother Zion Lex, good young brothers. Brother Ron Shields, Divine Prospect, these brothers that are going into the archaeology and looking these things up and verifying things so that we can really see, wait a minute, we've been taught some things that doesn't add up. And it's being used against us to keep us stuck where we are. Now you dealing with Pharisee type stuff because you just stuck with tradition instead of getting into the actual scholarship of the word.
Verse 8 in Genesis chapter 10. And Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth.
All right. So Nimrod is the reason why you have December 25th. Because the whole African or fantasy was that Nimrod was murdered and they cut his pieces of his body and hid it everywhere, and he was reincarnated. Somehow his spirit slept with his mother, which is crazy, and he was the mother gave birth to a full-grown evergreen tree on December 25th. And this is why. So this is the kind of foolishness that,
Right.
And this is why you have these big penises, phallic symbols everywhere, because they saying this in memory of his penis. This fertility gods. And his mother, interesting enough, the fertility god, the moon god.
Right.
That's why she got the big horns with a big moon in the middle. And then the father, which is also the sun, which is ridiculous, is the sun god. And now they take Christianity where you have a father who had a only begotten son, and now you tie all that pagan stuff in there and then try to blow it off to say this is Christ.
Right.
Nah.
Verse 9. He was a mighty hunter before Yahweh. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before Yahweh. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh, in the land of Shinar.
All right, the land of Shinar. That is Babylon. This kingdom was Babel. Babel means confusion. This is where the confusion started. It started right here with his kingdom because he was a mighty hunter. He could kill. He could destroy. He was powerful. So since he had, whoever has the power makes the truth, makes the laws, makes the rules. So since he had the power, he caused a whole bunch of confusion in the earth. And his time is when the confusion started to go out through on the earth. So that's why when they say Babylon, that's the land of confusion. Well, what's more confused than this? Man, I had a sister come by the store. She a good sister. You know what I'm saying? You met her. I ain't gonna call no names or nothing like that. Sis came in there, had a mustache and a beard. Man, it confused the crap out of me. Where else can you see that?
Right.
Here, straight confusion.
Out of that land went forth Asher, and builded Nineveh, and the city of Rehoboth, and Calah, and Rezin, between Nineveh and Calah, the same is a great city. And Mizraim begat Ludum, and Anamim, and Lehabim, and Naphtahim, and Pathrusim, and Casluhim, out of whom came Philistim and Caphtorim.
All right, so this is important because now for those who are really trying to study, the Philistines are from Caphtor. So when you start to look in some of these other books of antiquity, before the Greeks got a hold of things and we started getting new names for stuff, these are the names that you're going to trace backwards so you can find out who is who. For example, like Aram. Aram is Syria. That's why you have Aramaic, Syrian. Where are we from? Babylon, Ur of Chaldees, Assyria, all those areas. So it might not make a lot of sense to you, but when you start to come across these names, when you start to go into the more ancient writings, you can refer here and you can see who these people are and what the names has changed. So you can trace how people are moving around. And you'll find often like the Philistines were also, they from an island. What they doing in Canaan? Caphtor's an island. What are they doing in Canaan?
And Canaan begat Sidon, his firstborn, and Heth, and the Jebusite, and the Amorite, and the Girgashite, and the Hivite, and the Archite, and the Sinite, and the Arvadite, and the Zimmerite, and the Hamathite, and afterwards were the families of the Canaanites spread abroad.
All right, so they were spread abroad. They went abroad, moving into other places they didn't belong.
And the border of the Canaanites was from Sidon, as you come to Gerar unto Gaza, as you go into Sodom and Gomorrah and Admah and Zeboim, even unto Lasha. These are the sons of Ham after their families, after their tongues, in their countries, and in their nations.
Okay, and in their nations. So why doesn't it say and in their Gentiles? It's the same word. So with the Hamite not a Gentile? Hamite a Gentile. Even Shemites are Gentiles. The only person who's not a Gentile is who?
Israel.
That's it. Because we're set apart from all the other Goy nation or Goyim nations. All these are nations. And these nations have a land. But you see here, the Canaanites spread abroad. They went all over the place. They went and inhabited different places. But they're a nation of people.
Verse 21. Unto Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth, the elder, even to him were children born.
All right. Shem, or Shem, name. The father of all the children of Eber, or Abar. Now, Abar is where you get Hebrew from. Abarim, crossed over. So, those that are from Eber are Hebrews. Not just because you're Shem, but if you're from the line of Eber, then that would make you a Hebrew. So people play with that as well. And that's why you look in the New Testament, you have to say, oh, don't think you got Abraham to call, because Abraham is a Hebrew, and you're a Hebrew too, because guess who also a Hebrew? Esau. He a Hebrew. Guess who else is also Hebrew? Ishmael.
Right.
Other Hebrews. So you can call yourself a Hebrew, but at the end of the day, there's only one nation that is not considered Goyim. It's Yasharal.
The children of Shem, Elam, and Asher, and Arphaxad, and Lud, and Aram. And the children of Aram, Uz, and Hol, and Gether, and Mash. And Arphaxad begat Salah, and Salah begat Eber. And unto Eber were born two sons. The name of one was Peleg, for in his days was the earth divided, and his brother's name was Yoktan.
All right, so Peleg, verse 25. This supports the theory of Pangea. This is when all the earth was together. Then they had the big earthquake in the time of Peleg, in which the earth started to divide. Things started to change.
Genesis chapter 10 and verse 26. And Yoktan begat Almodad, and Sheleph, and Hazarmaveth, and Yerah, and Hadaram, and Uzal, and Diklah, and Obal, and Abimael, and Sheba, and Ophir.
Okay, and when you see Ophir, it would be Ophir, which is a theory of where the name Africa came from. Ophir, land of Ophir, which would have been where all the gold was, a land of gold. Ikka It's just land of, like why not call America or Amerigo? Because after America, it's called America, land of Ameri. So they say that, Africa was named after either Leotis Africanus or Scipius Africanus. But if you look up the brother, Scipius, his father had a different name. So if his father had a different name, then how all of a sudden his name Africa? Right. But yet he was the one who went into the campaign and was able to destroy, I believe, Hannibal. Right. So that was his victory. He took that name.
Verse 30. And their dwelling was from Mishah as you go unto Sephar, a mount of the east.
All right. And the dwelling was from Misha as you go unto Sephar, a mount of the east. And if you follow that right there, Sephar, there you got Sepharvaim, Sephardic. That's not even the same branch as Abraham. It's Shemite, but if you follow that, they not from Abraham. They are from Shem, but they not from Abraham's line. So it's Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. If you ain't from Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, you a Gentile. You Goyim. You not Israel. You definitely not a Hebrew Israelite. So you won't know this. And you got people trying to say, the Sephardic, the people that went all into Spain and all those areas. Yeah, they might have been black, but they not Israel. So people are telling you who they are by their bloodline. The same way you can look at certain names and you can see which slave owner you had. I got a French last name. So guess where my slave owners were?
Verse 30. And their dwelling was from Misha as you go unto Sephar, the mount of the east. These are the sons of Shem after their families, after their tongues, in their lands, after their nations.
Okay, after their nations. What's the Strongs for that one?
1471. H1471.
H1471. And what's that? Goyim. Once again. So why are they calling Shem Gentiles? Because it literally just means nation. That's all it means. But one nation was separated from all the other nations. And that's why they want you to be part of them. That's why they want you to be citizens. That's why they don't want you to know who you are. Because then now you can be like them. Instead of you being out here on a hill shining light and letting them try to be like you. They naturally already trying to be like you. Naturally. They can't even help it. That's why all this wickedness is going on in the earth. Because they following us. We following them doing the foolishness they're doing, and they turn around following us because they're programmed. That's why all their music sound like us, they food cook like us, they dress like us, their hair is like us. Now with technology, they plastic, even crimes, everything. They trying to copy everything. And it's not just talking about Euro Gentiles, all Gentiles.
One thing people don't realize is that, like, if you just look at music in general, basically most popular music, literally all comes or originated with the same group. Like if you go and you study music, study the genealogy of music and how these genres developed and where they came from,
right?
You can trace a lot of them back to the same people, which is slaves,
right?
And it's fascinating. I'm talking about from blues to jazz. To even blues, jazz, even classical music has roots in Africa. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of this stuff, but you know what I'm saying, if you're just following the world, you wouldn't even realize that, because they try to paint it a different way. You know what I'm saying? Right. They try to make things look as if, you know what I'm saying, it's they don't really show you that all this stuff is coming from the same folks. You know what I'm saying? Because they basically just kind of pillage the creativity that y'all gave this certain set of people,
right? And
we never really get the credit.
Absolutely, and everything, because we're the originators. We're the originators for just about everything. Why? Because we're set apart. All right, we finished that up.
One more verse.
Okay.
Genesis 10:32. These are the families of the sons of Noah after their generations and their nations, and by these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood.
All right. All right, so let's go to Jeremiah chapter 17. Jeremiah chapter 17. Jeremiah chapter 17. So the punishment for us, because we wanted to be like all the nations instead of being that nation, the nation. So there was a punishment for that. And this is how you know who the children of Yisrael are right now.
Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 1. The sin of Yehuda is written with a pen of iron and with the point of a diamond. It is graven upon the table of their heart and upon the horns of your altars.
Thus why it says the heart is exceedingly deep. Who could know it? You got so much sin written into your heart, which is talking about your mind. You got so much wickedness in there that you know, if you're honest with yourself, you'd be ashamed for yourself. I know some thoughts be popping through my head, and before I used to just entertain thoughts. Now, man, I'd be so ashamed. I'm like, yeah, remove these things from my head because it's written with a diamond point of diamond. It's in there for a reason.
It is graven upon the table of their heart and upon the horns of your altars. Whilst their children remember their altars and their groves by the green trees upon the high hills.
So they still doing Christmas trees way back in this time. Groves. We used to take those groves because these evergreen trees. And we would, Jeremiah chapter 10, we shave them down and turn them into these Asherah poles. And this is what we used to be worshiping with.
O my mountain in the field, I will give your substance and all your treasures to the spoil and your high places for sin throughout all your borders.
Okay. Oh, my mountain in the field. Who is he talking about?
Israel.
He's talking about us. But why are you talking about a mountain?
It's the,
what does
government.
Mountain represent?
The
Government. So when he says flee unto the mountain, he's talking about flee to the government. Where is this government? It don't exist. That's what this ministry is working so hard, because we understand this word. Our elders understand this word. Our mores understand this word. Do we understand everything? Absolutely not. So we don't need to understand everything. When the government's put together, they don't have to understand everything. They need to get with the other brothers that understand stuff so we can have a government. So we are setting that government up. This is why this is why we invested in a bus, so we can go find you. Find you people that understand, that are of our nationality. So that we can set this government up so that when the king comes, the government is in place.
And you, even yourself, shall discontinue from your heritage that I gave you, and I will cause you to serve your enemies in the land which you know not. For you have kindled a fire in my anger, which shall burn forever.
Okay. Oh, my mountain in the field. Oh, Yasharal, I will give your substance and all your treasures to the spoil. But aren't we supposed to be that peculiar treasure? Oh, so we to the spoil. And our high places for sin. Why? Because we got groves on green trees, worshiping the sun god, worshiping the host of heaven, and worshiping the moon god, the queen of heaven, doing all these things, chasing a new moon, thinking that this is calculating our months, because that's what the other nations did. So he said, all right, no problem. I'm going to discontinue you from your heritage. And what is your heritage? Look that up again. H5159. Nachalah. Nachalah. H5159. Nachallah. Properly something inherited. That is occupancy, an heirloom, generally estate, patrimony, or portion. To inherit, possession. What did we inherit? What did we inherit? When we agreed all this we would do, what did we inherit? What are some of the things we inherited?
We inherited the land.
That's number one. We inherited the land. You're going to discontinue from your land. What else we inherited?
The promises.
Promises. Disconnected from living in those promises. What else do we get?
It's Torah.
Torah. We got laws. You're going to discontinue from the laws. You got a name, Yasharah. You're going to discontinue. Now your name going to be Schwartz. What? How your name Schwartz? You a black dude. Migno? How you French? So when I was like, yeah, you know, my grandfather was from Martinique, which was a French island, and you know we spoke French. We actually got streets in France named Mignot, right? Oh no, that's the ignorance I had because I had no heritage. You know what my kids say when they say, "Oh, Mignot, you French?" Mm-hmm. You know what my kids tell them? My kids tell them, "No, we had French slave owners." That's what my kids is educated. They know better.
All right. Yeah, my name originated in Ireland.
Now, it was Black Irish too, but I'm pretty sure your family wasn't Irish.
No.
You're a little tall, you know. But
No,
I'm playing. All right, verse
5.
Start it over, verse 4.
Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 4. And you, even yourself, shall discontinue from your heritage that I gave you, and I will cause you to serve your enemies in the land which you know not. For you have kindled a fire in my anger, which shall burn forever.
So if you in your parents' house and you being taught how to do all the right things and you want to hang out with the badass kids across the street, that's it. So get out. Go over there with them. So that's what happened. We had to get out. We over there with them. Oh, by the way, they don't like you.
Right.
They don't like you. They jealous of you because here you are coming out here with all the pretty clothes and all the talent. The Most High love you. He showed that you the one kid. Just like when you grew up with a father, then you look around. These kids don't got no fathers, and here you go like you coming out with your dad. People looking like who you think you are. You got a dad and all this stuff. Right. People be jealous.
Thus says Yahweh, cursed be the man that trusts in man and makes flesh his arm, and whose heart departs from Yahweh.
Whose mind departs from Yahweh. Even to this day, with our eldership, with our elder 70-something years old, 40+ year, 80 books, hundreds of paintings. He's still a man. He's a man who's anointed a word witness of Yah, but the same day he's a man. I can't follow him. Just as much as he'd be retarded or anybody would be retarded to follow me. We men. We don't put our trust in man. We put our trust in the word, which means the word tells us how we to love our neighbor like ourselves. And in that process, whatever happens because I trust Yahweh.
For he shall be like the heath in the desert, and shall not see when good comes, but shall inhabit the parched places in the wilderness, in a salt land, and not inhabited. Blessed is the man that trusts in Yahweh, and whose hope is Yahweh is, and whose hope Yahweh is.
Drop to verse 9.
The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it?
But everybody constantly saying, God know my heart. He do. He know your heart. Do you know your heart? If you want to know your heart, open this book. Look at what your ancestors did. Oh, yeah, you got a heart of your ancestors. And look at what your ancestors were supposed to do. Now look at what you're doing. Oh, there's your heart right there. There's your mind. Now you can start being honest with yourself. Now you can say, you know what? I ain't spit. I'm nothing. Literally, spittle. I'm nothing. I'm only something if the Most High resides in me. That's it. Nothing. Now you can do something about it. Now you can feel ashamed of those thoughts in your head and say, you know what? These thoughts in my head will never manifest because I'm ashamed of those things. Because now I'm being real with myself. But then, you feel real good. You think that your heart is pure because you ain't the murderer across the street, or you're not the rapist that went to school with you. Then you think your heart is clean. Now the devil's sneaking up on you with all these little things that's just causing you to be in a worse and worse and worse state. Deeper depression, anxiety, drugs, all these things is piling up now because you don't want to be real with yourself. This is why the Most High Yahweh gave us a day for us to, if look, you ain't been real with yourself all year. Come to me on atonement. Come to me on Kippur and keep it real.
Verse 10. I, Yahweh, search the heart. I try the reins, even to give every man according to his ways and according to the fruit of his doings.
According to his ways. What are your ways? Are your ways Yah's ways? And what are the fruit of your doings? It depends on your ways. If you do things according to Yahshem, his character, then your fruit is going to be righteous fruit, if there's anything remaining. But if you're doing things according to your own heart, it says it's deceitful above all things. Your mind is more deceitful than anything that was ever created. It says all things, deeper. You go into Septuagint, it says deeper. It's deeper than all things. All right, let's drop down. All right, we're good there. Let's finish there. All right. Let's move on. Let's go to Acts chapter 26. Acts chapter 26. Acts chapter 26, and we're going to read 1 through 15. Now you're going to see Saul take advantage of this citizenship that he got going on. Take advantage of this understanding of the ways of the land. You don't have to suffer just to, be righteous. You can suffer being righteous by doing the right thing. You don't have to add extra uncomfortability to your life. Now, if it's being done strategic for a reason, that's different. Some people might have to give up citizenship. I might be one of them people that literally might have to give up my citizenship and retain my original citizenship so I can get out of here. So you got to play the game, however you got to play the game to get to where you're trying to be. You got to do what you got to do, but be wise with that. Don't make it a pride decision where you just want to give up everything. I used to have the mixed emotion about changing the names, because if I changed my name in the system, the name belonged to the government. I don't care what you use. Don't nobody call me by my government name of Yasharal. They call me by my spiritual name, my reborn name, my rebirth name. So why I want the government to have that? But again, if there's strategic reasons for doing that, or if it's time to separate completely from the government, then you better have a way.
Acts chapter 26 and verse 1. Then Agrippa said unto Saul, You are permitted to speak for yourself. Then Saul stretched forth the hand and answered for himself. I think myself happy, King Agrippa, because I shall answer for myself this day before you touching all the things whereof I am accused of the Yahudim. Especially because I know you to be an expert in all customs and questions which are among the Yahudim, wherefore I beseech you to hear me patiently.
And this is where the term brown nosing comes from. Because there's a brown brother over here using brown nosing this guy, because you be an expert in all customs. You talking to an Edomite, man.
Verse 4. My manner of life from my youth, which was at the first among my own nation at Jerusalem, know all the Yahudim, which knew me from the beginning, if they would testify that after the most straightest sect of our religion, I lived a Pharisee.
Straightest sect of their religion. So what's that word for religion there? Now you getting into religion. You weren't supposed to be dealing with religion. Acts 26, and what verse is that?
It's verse 5.
All right. So religion is Threskia, G2356, ceremonial observance, religion worshiping. So this ceremonial way of doing things, and the Talmud of the washing hands 3 times before doing all that. This is the straightest sect. They follow supposedly the law, and they follow all the little oral traditions that were passed down with all the other nations being inserted into our nationality. This is what he used to practice.
And now I stand and am judged for the hope of the promise made of Elohim unto our fathers.
Let's look at Pharisees too. Let's look at that. Pharisee, G5330, a separatist that is exclusively religious, Jewish sectary. So these are the separatists that are ultra religious, and that comes from the Hebrew word parash is what it's coming from, which is to separate, which is to wound, scatter, declare, distinctly, show, sting, disperse. So these are the people that were supposed to be saying that they were the most set apart group of people because they keep in the laws and all these oral traditions that the average person this time could not keep up with all these oral traditions because they couldn't even. It's almost like how the Catholic Church started. The Catholic Church had the Bible in Latin and Greek. The people there couldn't read Latin and Greek. So they had to believe whatever the Catholic Church was telling them. So the Pharisees was doing the same thing. They telling people, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that. How many of these people, these poor people of the land, actually had tablets and scrolls and could afford to pay a scribe to sit there and pen? How many of us now could afford to pay somebody to sit there and write a whole copy of this book out of sheep skin or whatever they was writing on?
Verse 7. Unto which promise our 12 tribes, instantly serving Yahweh day and night, hope to come, for which hope's sakes, King Agrippa, I am accused of the Yahudim. Why should it be thought a thing incredible with you, that Elohim should raise the dead? I verily thought with myself that I ought to do many things contrary to the name of Yeshua of Nazareth, which thing I also did in Jerusalem, and many of the saints did I shut up in prison, having received authority from the chief priests, and when they were put to death, I gave my voice against them.
And when they were put to death. So this brother was getting people off. Keep in mind, the first mention we see of Saul, at least to my understanding, was when they stoned the first martyr, the first so-called Christian martyr, which was Stephen. And Saul of Tarsus was holding the clothes of the men because, we got to keep the law. We can't get blood all on our holy garments. So let me hold this young man so I can stone this guy to death.
And I punished them oft in every synagogue, and compelled them to blaspheme, and being exceedingly mad against them, I persecuted them even unto strange cities. Whereupon I went to Damascus with authority and commission from the chief priests. At midday, O king, I saw in the way a light from heaven, above the brightness of the sun shining round about me, and them which journey with me.
All right, so he's about to give this story to King Agrippa. All right, and how did he get to King Agrippa? He had to use his citizenship. He had to speak the same thing we do not everybody, but most educated black people in America speak 2 languages. They speak the language they need to speak with the nations here. And they speak the way we speak to each other. Depending if you're from south, up north, west, east coast, whatever, middle class, poor, whatever. We have what they call ebonics, which I hate that term, but ebonics. So he had to speak two languages. He was speaking Hebrew to his people when he talking to his people. And he going before the king, he talking that nice talk. He knowing how to speak properly in front of people.
Yeah, I think the technical term for that is code switching. Verse 14. And when we were all fallen to the earth, I heard a voice speaking unto me and saying in the Hebrew tongue, Saul, Saul, why persecute you me? It is hard for you to kick against the pricks.
All right, so you have YAH once again confirming that Saul was of the nation of Yasharal, because he's speaking to him in our national tongue, our nation's tongue. So people tell you it's not important to learn Hebrew. Well, if it's important enough for him, he could have came down here and spoke to him in Greek. Saul didn't walk with YAH. He spoke to him because he's a member of the nation. This is why when we see each other, Shalom, out, Shalom. That's why we speak to each other. We go back, and we acknowledge our nation. They say, well, when in Rome, do as the Rome, or when in Greece, do as the Greeks. No. Do righteousness wherever you go. Speak your language. Grab a hold of your nationality, especially if you're newly found. Grab a hold of it. Learn it. Learn who you are. Learn your culture. Because our mind has been Hellenized. We have been Greeked. We say, go Greek. We've gone Greek. To the point where we go to black universities and join Greek fraternities and sororities. We've been Hellenized. They even have different terms in the New Testament for Gentiles. Some of them mean Greek-speaking Jew that were Hellenist, then Hellen, which were Greeks. They had different terms. So in the Old Testament, when you see Gentiles, it always means nation. And depending on what nation they're talking about, is either the nation of Yasharal and all the other nations, and they'll tell you what other nation. When you go in the New Testament, you got to look up that word Gentile. You got to look up that word Greek. Greek and Gentile, both of those you got to look up. Even heathen, you got to look that up and see what are they talking about. Because it's not always talking about the same thing. All right, let's stop right there. Let's go to the conclusion. Let's go to James chapter 1. We're going to look at this religion because we weren't supposed to be dealing with religion. We don't have a national religion. We got laws, judgments, and statutes. And history. All this other stuff was added. Yaakov chapter 1, and we're going to read 19 through 27 for the conclusion. This whole religious thing was added. That's their part of their nationality. Their nationalities had a bunch of made up gods, made up religions, paganalities. So we weren't given that. We had an actual creator come to us and talk to us and send us his own servants. And we killed all his own servants to the point where he had to send his own son. Then we killed him.
James chapter 1, verse 19. Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. For the wrath of man works not the righteousness of Elohim.
All right, so the wrath of man does not work righteousness. So understand that when we get very, very angry and upset, that ain't no righteousness coming out of that. So when you're in that mode, it's always wise to separate. You're not going to just get some epiphany of righteousness because you're really, really mad. You know what? The truth is coming to me right now because I'm really, really mad. Nah, don't work that way, G. Sorry.
Wherefore, lay apart all filthiness and superfluity of naughtiness, and receive with meekness the engrafted word, which is able to save your souls. But be you doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves.
So be you doers of the word, not Pharisees that are tellers of the word. Hear the word and they tell people the word, but they don't do the word.
For if any be a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like unto a man beholding his natural face in a glass.
So we have, we got a whole lot of hearers. We feel as if we go and we sit down and we sit in a church and we hear somebody talking, we not learning nothing. We just sitting here hearing and we showed up. Like it's some kind of, like you're going to get some kind of payment, like you're going to get a check for salvation doing that. No, you're going to have to do these things. So if you have to do the things, a certain set of things, then why are we not going to the place where we're going to be told the things that we need to do so we can be hearing what we need to do and doing? But that's not part of this nation. That's not how they do it here. So we got to go figure out who our nation was. Our nationality, the men were priests. The men went into the temple. They learned.
I think that's something that we definitely, all of us, got to kind of make sure and check ourselves on. You know what I'm saying? Because especially, like you said, living in this nation and in the West in general, they teach you to kind of have that cognitive dissonance where you can think something and then do something completely different. I mean, you see that in Christianity,
right?
But you also see it in a lot of other facets of this culture where, you can basically, because they've taken away shame in a lot of things, you can go out there and be a slut if you want to, but not be considered a slut, or you can go out there and say, hey, I feel like I'm a woman today, even though functionally you're a man. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Natural. You know what I'm saying? So that whole type of mindset is being pushed in this culture very badly, and it's something we all got to watch out for, that we and check ourselves on often, because it's easy to fall into that, as the elder would say, just kind of playing church. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Amen. Absolutely. That's why we got to learn who we are, so we can see, because it's hard to be in Babylon and know everything that is Greek. We got to have something to change. If you grow up and all you have is nothing but boys around you, how you know what a girl is? You don't have no mom. You grew up with your dad. You in the warrior tribe, and there's nothing but men around. Right. You ain't gonna know what a woman is. Right. You gotta have something to contrast. You gotta have something there, and that's why as kids we don't know. We just see our mom and we see little girls. They look like little boys to a certain age. It might be a little bit different, but we don't really understand it until you change and you start to grow. So, oh, wait a minute, that's not the same, because I don't feel that way about this dude over here, or you shouldn't at least.
Verse 24 in James chapter 1, for he beholds himself and goes his way, and straightway forgets what manner of man he was. But whoso looks into the perfect law of liberty and continues therein, he being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man shall be blessed in his deed.
All right, but whoso looks into the perfect law of liberty. So what would be the perfect law of liberty? Anybody? What would you say is the perfect law of liberty?
It's Torah.
Torah is involved, but remember, law, the commandment is a lamp, and the law is the light. And what is the fulfillment of the law? Just read this on past Shabbat. Righteousness. So you have liberty to do the perfect law to equal righteousness. Love. Absolutely, sis. Love. What is love? Love is doing righteousness. Period. Whether you're mad, whether you're sad, whether they loving you back, or whether they're not, you have to give that back. And you have the liberty to do whatever is necessary through Mashiach to reach that level of righteousness. But you can't do that if you don't know what righteousness is. You're just going to take liberties out of deceitfulness of the heart and justify doing what you want to do. So you got to learn what righteousness is first. You got to learn, and that's what these basic statutes and commandments is for. So you can learn the blueprint. But don't nobody move into a blueprint. You look at it, be like, hey, put this blueprint here. We're going to build a house of blueprints and we just going to stay in there. What happens? Nah. You look foolish, but that's what we try to do with these laws and think that the wind ain't going to blow down your house full of some microfilms of blueprints. Microfiche. It ain't gonna work. Finish it up, Art.
If any man among you seem to be religious.
Okay, don't call me religious. I ain't religious. Go ahead.
And bridles not his tongue, but deceives his own heart, this man's religion is vain.
All right, so if you meet somebody religious, be a Islamic person, a Christian, a non-believing Israelite, whatever the case may be, if he controls his tongue, in other words, he believes different than you, but he's not attacking you. Right. He's not getting angry. He's working with you. He knows how to control his tongue where he can tell you what he believes, and when he knows to be quiet and hear, he knows how to do that. Right. Then his religion isn't in vain. He can be taught. He can find out, man, I'm being religious. Oh, he comes in the volume of the book. Oh, okay. So he was there in the beginning. Oh, so he what was spoke. And when he was spoke, if it embodies into a person, then I'm like him. Oh.
Pure religion and undefiled before Elohim and the Father is this, to visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction and to keep himself unspotted from the world.
Okay, who's visiting the fatherless? Who's visiting these kids? And talking to these kids? Who's dealing with these old widows, these old women who don't have nobody? Where they're afflicted, when they don't have a husband to go out there and hang up the hurricane shutters like in Miami, or don't have somebody to give them some money when their Social Security's cut off, or because they didn't do this or they didn't do that. Where's the church then? Oh, you can't go to these churches anymore with that. You can only write them a check. That's not all churches, but these mega churches, they not helping people like that. They doing stuff that they can write off on 501c3. And speaking of 501c3, you want to know who the 501c3 people are? Here's a simple test to see the 501c3. Go find all the people telling you to take these vaccines. That's your 501c3. Now, I would never, ever believe that a Hebrew or multiple Hebrew organizations would tell you to inject blood into your body, which is against the law. They have to use plasma in a lot of these vaccines. That's where you see them 501c3. If you don't know what 501c3 is, that's tax-free status for non-profit organizations. Wait a minute. Aren't non-profits already tax-free? Oh, you want to be tax-free on your profit that you make being a non-profit. So how are you a non-profit that makes profit? You can do that in a confused country as long as you support the agenda. That's why, here's another clue. You dealing with a 501c3 organization. You come and you fellowship with Savior Word of YAH. We're not asking you for your government name. We're not asking you for your Social Security. What do I need that for? I don't work for the government. So why you got to provide your Social Security number and your government name to walk up in there?
Speaking on this, shout out to brother Divine Prospect, but he's the one who actually mentioned this. Mm-hmm. Apparently, Joel Osteen, his mega church, got a loan for $4.4 million recently. You heard about that? Yeah. So
Absolutely.
It's like, but
what he need a loan for?
Right, exactly.
Because he lost profitability because, everybody not rushing in there. Joel Osteen, the same dude in Houston when they had the big hurricane that came through, he wouldn't open his doors to people.
Right.
Till TV put him on blast, and all of a sudden, y'all can go in here with the poor section. A man that sit up there and smile in your face all day long, it won't read a single scripture. But my people love to have it so. So that's all we're going to do today. So keep in mind, you have a citizenship and you have a nationality. Your nationality is important. Why? Because we are coming to the point where it's going to be nation versus nation. If you don't know what nation you're a part, you don't know what nation you're going to become, because we are going to become a nation. Ezekiel 37, we're about to become a nation. You got to know what you about to become and what your nation is. Nation of believers. Israel is your bloodline. But it says all they of Israel, are not upright with the Most High. All right, so we have any last questions or comments before we close in prayer? Love and happiness over everything. Praise Yah. And how can you be happy when your people are suffering? You can only be happy when your people are suffering and you're doing your part. You're trying to help. You're trying to teach. You're trying to help do the best that you can. And you can learn to be content with where you're at. Let's go ahead and close in a prayer.
Someone says, look into the legal subrogation, brothers and sisters.
Praise Yah. And we face towards Jerusalem, where our temple was and where our temple and Mashiach shall return. Abba Father, Yahweh, Elohim, Olive, Abraham, Yashak, Yaakov. Covenant Father, Elohim, Yasharah. We thank you once again, Yahweh, for allowing us to come before you on this day, Yah, to rightly divide your scriptures, Yah, to gain some insight and understanding into our nationhood, Yah. For you said that we are becoming a nation, Yah. For the good news of the kingdom is ahead of us, Yah. That what they call erroneously the gospel is the good news of the kingdom, that the kingdom is returning and that we will regain our nationality, Yah. So we ask humbly, Yah, that you empower every last one of us, all the viewers, all the listeners, all those that have a heart for your nation, Yah. Whether they be of our nation or of another nation, Yah. For again, you said the nations will band together, Yah, and the nation of believers will band together, Yah. So we ask that you produce our cause, Yah, that you gain us insight into the condition of our hearts and minds, Yah, so that we can start to buff out those wicked things that were engraved in our hearts with a diamond pen, Yah, so that we could become that nation of believers, Yah, that nation of covenant keepers, Yah, that nation of obedient followers of you, Yahweh. For we understand as time kicks on, Yah, as the challenges get harder, Yah, more and more of us are falling away, Yah. We're seeing wholesale assemblies falling away, Yah. So we ask humbly that you open our eyes, Yah, that you give us the strength, Yah, to band together and become a real nation according to your prophecy, Yah. Not according to our will, but according to what you have written, thus says Yahweh. Yah, all these things we humbly come before you, and we acknowledge, Yah, that we are just sinners, Yah. Please forgive us of our sins and trespasses, Yah. Please give us eyes to see our ways, Yah, and not just the ways of others, Yah, so we can play our part. These things we humbly come before you, and we thank you, we pray, we beg openly, Yah. To you, Yahweh, alone do we thank and pray, through your holy, humble Son, the Savior word of Yah, through Yahweh Shai, the word in flesh. We thank and pray to you, Yahweh alone. Amen.